Hi, Domenica here from Easy Sewing for Beginners. In this video today I'll be showing you how to set up and use your Singer Heavy Duty sewing machine. Okay, so let's get started. So I've gone ahead and plugged the machine in, I've put the foot pedal on the floor and turned the switch on, which you'll find above the plug on the side of the sewing machine. You'll know when the machine is on because the light above the presser foot will automatically turn on when you switch the machine on. Now the first thing we'll need to do is put thread onto the bobbin. So I'm going to put my spool of thread onto the spool pin here and place the spool cap on top like that. The first thread guide is here, so we're going to make sure the thread is going under that guide first. And then for threading the bobbin you need to make sure you put the thread around this thread guide next. So you've got some tension springs here, so we're going to make sure the thread goes under the tension springs and around clockwise. Alright, the next step is putting the thread through one of the holes on the bobbin here. So I like to go from the inside up through to the outside, and I'm going to use my other hand to hold that thread tail. I'm going to push the bobbin onto the bobbin spindle here, push the spindle over to the right. Okay, so this will disengage the needle and the hand wheel, so that'll stop moving while you're threading the bobbin. So I'm going to put my foot gently on the foot pedal and start winding the bobbin. Okay, when you're happy with the amount of thread that you've got in there, you just need to push the spindle back over to the left. Pull the bobbin off and then just snip your thread, and then I also like to snip this little thread tail off as well. Okay, then we're ready for the next step. Next we need to load the bobbin into the machine, so I'm going to remove the cover here. Okay, here's our bobbin that we put thread onto. So you need to make sure your thread is running in an anti-clockwise direction there. So if you hold the bobbin up, it should look like the letter P. So just remember the letter P. So I'm going to drop the bobbin in there, and then at the front here you will have a tension blade. So the thread needs to be running in between the tension blade and the bobbin case there. Alright, I'm just going to leave that thread off to the side for now. Next we're going to thread the top of the sewing machine. So I've just changed over the colour thread just so you can see the difference between my top thread and the bottom bobbin thread. So the first thread guide is this one here still. So make sure it's sitting in that thread guide. Now this is the second thread guide, so you need to go under that one. And next we need to run the thread down the front of the machine here, so you can see the number 3 here. Now in here you will find the tension discs, so make sure that your presser foot is in the up position if it isn't already. So we're going to wrap the thread under this part here, and we're going to come up to the take up lever. Now if your take up lever isn't all the way up, use your hand wheel and turn it towards yourself to get it in the highest position. So place your thread over the take up lever, and the thread should be sitting in that little hole at the front there. Next your thread will run down the front of the machine here, and there'll be 2 more thread guides at the top of the needle bar here. So there's a thread guide at the top here, and then there's another thread guide right at the top of the needle bar. So I like to hold the thread out with my left hand like this, and then use my right hand to hook that thread around that little hook like that. Now the next step is to thread the needle. So most of these Singer heavy duty sewing machines have a built-in needle threader, unless you have the 4411, and then unfortunately you'll need to thread the needle by hand. So your needle threader is up here, so you need to pull that down. Now it should stay down by itself. Now if you find that it's not staying down by itself, then that will mean that the needle isn't in its highest position. So use the hand wheel to get the needle into the highest position. Pull that needle threader down. Okay, so the next step is wind or hook that thread around the hook on the side here, and then there'll actually be another tiny hook that's coming through the eye of the needle. So you need to make sure the thread is hooking under that tiny hook that's going through the eye of the needle, and then just slowly push the needle threader up, and that hook should bring the thread through the needle, and you should have a tiny loop at the back there. Hopefully you can see that. And then you would just pull that loop at the back, and that should pull the thread all the way through. Now if you're threading the needle by hand, make sure you thread the needle from the front through to the back of the needle, like that. Okay, so the last step here is to bring the bottom bobbin thread up through the needle plate. So what I like to do is use my left hand to hold the thread out to the side here, and then I'm going to use my right hand to turn the hand wheel towards myself. That'll make the needle go down, and it'll come back up. And as that happens, you'll see that pink top thread go over the bobbin there, and it's going to pick up that bobbin thread. And if I just gently pull this top thread, you can see that bobbin thread come through the top there. So I'm just going to pull that bobbin thread out. Okay, and then I'm going to place the threads under the presser foot and towards the back of the machine. Okay, and you'll know when your bobbin thread is threaded correctly because you should see that thread running over the top of the bobbin like that. Okay, so to finish off, I'm just going to replace the bobbin cover there. Oops. Okay, and now the machine is ready to sew. Okay, so let's go through a few of the features on the sewing machine before we start sewing. So this large dial on the front here, this one is your stitch selection. Okay, so at the moment it's on the straight stitch and line it up with the white dot above it there. This dial here is the stitch length, so it changes the length of your stitch. So I usually sew at a 2.5 to a 3 stitch length, so I might just leave it on a 3 for now. This dial up here which says width, that will change the width of your stitch if you're doing a zigzag stitch. So if you're just doing a straight stitch, you'd probably just leave it on a 0. You can also use that stitch to change the position of your needle slightly. So have a play around with it, but usually it will sit on a 0. If you move the dial, you'll see the needle slightly moving to the left. This dial here says needle position. So at the moment you can see that the needle is in the middle position. So you might like to change your needle so it's all the way over to the left, or you can go the other way so your needle is all the way over to the right. This dial here is your tension. So usually if you're sewing standard cotton fabrics, you'd leave it at a 4, but if you want to change your tension for anything, then you can do that quite easily there. Okay, this button here is your reverse stitch. So when you want to lock your stitches and sew backwards, push your reverse stitch down, okay, and that will lock your stitches in. As I pointed out before and I've used in the video, this is your hand wheel. So always turn the hand wheel towards yourself, okay. You've got a little compartment on the front here, so I just keep the other little bits and pieces in that compartment. Okay, there's a few other bits and pieces, but we might leave those for now. But if there's anything in particular you want to know about this sewing machine, then leave a comment in the description down below. Okay, so to get sewing, I'm going to place my fabric under the presser foot, and for now I'm just going to use the edge of the presser foot as my guide. I'm going to use the lever at the back of the machine here to lower the presser foot, and this will engage the tension discs that are in the front of the machine here. Okay, I've got my stitch on straight stitch. Now, just a little tip with this machine, sometimes when you're just starting your sewing, the top thread can come unthreaded. So I like to just hold the thread tails out to the side until I get started. So I'm going to do a few stitches. And then don't forget to reverse stitch to lock your stitching in. And then keep going. Okay, so once you've finished your stitching, lift the presser foot up, We've got a little cutter on the side here that you can use. If you find that your needle's in the down position when you stop sewing, then just use your hand wheel to get the needle in the up position. Okay, so here's what the top stitching should look like, and this is the bottom bobbin stitching. I hope you found this video useful and it helps you on your journey with learning how to sew. Now, if your machine was like mine and came with a few other extra bits and pieces, then let me know in the comment section down below if you'd like a video on how to use those things. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!